Home prices and investment properties in the US are just crazy right now. So if you're feeling like you're priced out, this is the video I want you to watch through to the end, because this is going to share with you how you can invest abroad when the prices of the US or in the US are out of reach. All of the properties that you can invest in are not just in your backyard. They're not just in the city next to you. You can take your passport and travel abroad and purchase properties overseas. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm not going to give you any of the legal steps or things about getting attorneys and all of that information. I did that in my last video, 25 tips for buying new construction abroad. So you can go to my website. I'm also going to connect it here at the end of this video. But if you want to go to my website, it's knifeyburks.com/102. So we're going to jump right in. Here's what you need to think about before you're buying property overseas, especially, and this is for those of you that are considering buying property as an investment now and just bringing in that income and then eventually retiring and using that property for your place that you want to live at least 6 months out of the year or full time. So the first thing that you want to think about is your lifestyle overseas. You're going to stretch your budget overseas more than you would if you were to stay full time in the US. Real estate in certain markets can be a lot less than the US. And I'm not going to say cheap because some of the markets I've seen, they're not cheap, but they are less. So as far as the living expenses and other things that are surrounding your space, it costs a lot less. So if you can't afford $1 million beach property in California, you might be able to grab one in Mexico. I'm currently in Playa del Carmen, and I live 3 blocks from the beach. All of the condos that are being built around here, they have some that start at like 119,000 for condos, 3 blocks from the beach. There are some that go up to 500,000 or more, but it depends on your budget. It depends on what you can do. But they are much more affordable and a lot less than a lot of the beachfront properties in California. So, for example, if you have an annual income that might afford you a modest lifestyle in Illinois, you can do extremely well in Mexico. 70K will get you a long way. 70K is your annual income. That'll get you a long way here in Mexico. It's not always about it's not always about the properties being cheaper. It's about diversifying. So just say, for example, if you want to buy 2 investment properties, in the US, those investment properties may be about 300K each. But if you're thinking about buying abroad, you can buy $100,000 condo in Mexico and another 100 or $200,000 condo in Dominican Republic. So you can kind of diversify your income that way. But one thing I did want to mention, for this sheet, you don't have to fully take notes. I will give you a link to download it. You can actually go to my website, knifeyburks.com/103, and you can download this sheet, and you can have it later and go through it. It'll also have the video attached as well. So number 2, visas and residency perks. So I want to go through this because a lot of the countries, or not a lot, but all countries are different as far as the residency perks and the visas that they allow you to have if you decide to become a resident. One of the most popular ones that I'm seeing is Panama. Um, it's one of the most residency friendly countries for investors and retirees. That's why it's on my list. It's actually tied with Costa Rica. After I leave Mexico in August, I'm planning to go to either Panama or Costa Rica for 6 months to stay. So let me know in the comments, which one do you think would be better for me to do next for 6 months? So U.S. citizens can gain residency. Had to pause. A huge truck just drove by. So, U.S. Residents can gain residency in Panama by investing 200,000 in real estate. So, for retirees, there's something. If you go to YouTube, there's a ton of videos of people that live there that go over the pensionado visa. Gives you a lifetime residency with just $1,000 a month pension income. Now, think about those of you or those that are retired in the U.S. and retirements. Their check for retirement is less than 2K a month. Imagine being able to just go and live somewhere, and your income only has to be $1,000 a month, and where you're living, you more than likely, if you're purchasing an investment property now, you're more than likely going to walk into Panama with a home that's debt free with no mortgage. So that's a huge difference from being in the US versus overseas. Panama also offers a qualified investor visa for faster residency through a $300,000 investment. So just say, for example, if you buy a property or land or a condo that's 300K or more, you get a qualified investor visa. Now, Dubai, and this is why I say all property overseas is not cheap, but you do get some perks. So if you invest around 2 million AED, which is Dubai's currency, or USD, which is 545K, you can qualify for a renewable visa of 10 years with 10 years residency in Dubai. This lets you and your family. Now, this is something that you have to look into when you're going because sometimes the visa doesn't include you and your family. You have to get separate visas. So you can go and come as you please with this one. So even below the golden visa threshold, Dubai does have other property investor visas for smaller amounts where you can get the 3-year visa. So you'll have to just look into that. Whenever you decide what country you're in, you can just Google the information, go to their country's website, and then it will give you the detailed information. And one thing that I do want to mention, this stuff changes a lot. So you have to, if you're planning on doing it in a year from now or 2 years from now, check the current information at that time because if I'm recording this video as of May 19th, 2024. Now, for example, just about 3 weeks ago, about 3, maybe 4 weeks ago, Belize's residency option changed. Belize was a place that I was planning on going to as well, but now I have to look more into that because the option changed. So Mexico is another one, and that's actually where I am now. So in Mexico, you can buy a house with their visa option, and it's much more. It's lenient as of, like I said, May 19th, 2025. If you can show a certain amount of monthly income or assets, which like most retirees can, you can obtain a temporary or permanent residency in Mexico. Dominican Republic is a place where I'm seeing a lot of people retiring to recently. Dominican Republic and Panama. And I'm thinking because they're closest to the US, people are able to get back to their family quicker. It's not long flights if you're going someplace like Africa or Thailand or something like that. So with Dominican Republic, if you invest $200,000 in real estate historically or normally with them, you'll be able to get a residency visa there. Zanzibar is next. A lot of people want to go to Africa. So Zanzibar, under a new law launched in July 2025, and will grant you and your family residency permits if you buy qualifying property of 100K. In many places in the US, you're not going to find a lot of property under 100K or even at 100K. So being able to buy a property overseas at 100K, and living there basically, or renting it out while you're still living in the U.S. That's an amazing strategy to use to plan for retirement. Next one is market potential and growth. I'm not going to go too much into this because it was mentioned in my last video. Um, you got to look into whether the place is actually on the rise, or is it just hyped up on Instagram or TikTok. A lot of people post all of these videos about homes that they have in like Thailand, or homes that they have in Dubai or Africa, but they're not showing the whole picture. So you got to do your own research. Spots like Playa del Carmen, where I'm living, Dominican Republic, Ghana, Kenya, Dubai, Zanzibar, and Nigeria. If you're planning on going, you want to make sure it's a space that feels right for you. So as far as, just say for example, we're going to use Playa del Carmen. This is a place that is very walkable. This is a place where there's tons of restaurants, there's tons of shopping, there's tons of parties, there's tons of beaches. But if you're looking for a place that's more relaxed and laid back, you'll have to think of other locations that kind of fit your vibe and fit your style. So just look for those things, because you want to look for whether it's on the rise because of the income that you can have coming in now. And you also want to make sure that it is a vibe that fits you, because you want to make sure it's a place where you want to eventually retire, if that's what you're planning on looking into it for. Short-term rental rules. Can you really list your place on Airbnb, or is it just wishful thinking? You want to make sure that you are able to list it on Airbnb. There are some places that only allow you to list your properties with a management company. It can't go on to Airbnb. So when you're looking into areas, first see if you're able to do Airbnbs in that area. Next, when you're finding a property, you want to make sure your property is allowed to be listed on Airbnb, because similar to the US, the properties have, well, it's different in different countries. So similar to the US HOA, they have similar setups overseas. That particular HOA may not allow your property to be listed on Airbnb. So you want to make sure and check into that before you just up and decide to buy a property thinking I'm going to pop it on Airbnb, and the guidelines or the association does not allow you to do it. So make sure you know the local rules so you're not caught off guard. New construction perks. You want to make sure you're getting the finishes that you're wanting to have. The smart layouts. You want to make sure the layout is a modern layout that people are looking for, because you don't want to grab a property that people come into and it's an old style that's not what people are used to, because that will open the doors for negative reviews, because people will put negative reviews on just about anything nowadays. So you want to make sure it has modern finishes, smart layouts, and then warranties as well. So always check the developer's reputation. You don't just want to fall for the pretty renderings. Like when you're looking at developments, of course, a lot of these properties, just say for example, the developers that I'm working with here in Playa del Carmen, there are some that are already built out, but there are some that are just getting started. So they're not going to be ready until 2026 and 2027. So all they have are the renderings to show you. So you don't want to just look at those and think, okay, this is what I'm going to get. You want to make sure you're looking at the developer's history, looking at their reviews on Google, looking at the reviews on their website, looking at reviews for them on YouTube. You want to make sure you're going through and doing your due diligence. And then the rental and demand seasonality. So this is why I mentioned diversity before. because you want to make sure that you're getting an air if you're doing an Airbnb, you want to make sure you're getting it in a place that has bookings or a higher percentage of bookings year round. I'm in Playa del Carmen, as mentioned before, and Playa del Carmen has a higher rental rate because it's a tourist area. You may find a higher rental rate in places like Tulum or Cancun, different places like that. You will find a higher rate year round. So you want to make sure you're looking for a place that doesn't just have a hot spot for a few months, but for year round. But if you're kind of in between, and those are not places that you want to go to, and you get something that's, for example, you can rent it out half the year and get good rental rates. But the other half, you're not getting a ton of rentals. Maybe that's the time of the year you can take and stay for yourself. But you can also, like I said before, diversify your properties. And you may have a property here in Playa del Carmen that's renting amazing between January and June. But it kind of may slow down after that. But from July through December, your property in Dominican Republic will be popping. So you just have to think about the areas that you want, how you can diversify, and maybe even buy multiple properties. Lifestyle and retirement. You want to make sure that you can see yourself living there, not just vacationing. This is why I'm traveling the world over the next 2 years, because I want to. Now, I wouldn't, for me, I don't think I would ever give up my U.S. residency. My goal is to travel for the next 2 years and then choose a place that I love to invest in property for me and my daughter so that we can go and stay there for 6 months out of the year. Because like I said, I'll be back and forth. I probably would never give up my U.S. residency full time. That's another reason for me. I'm staying close to the U.S. Now, I am traveling to places like Thailand and Bali and Africa and Portugal just to experience it. But as far as living, I am looking more to stay on the near the US in places like Panama, Costa Rica, Mexico, and Dominican Republic. So closer to the US. So you want to make sure it's a place where you can see yourself living, not just vacationing. You also want to think about the food, the pace, the community. Um, Playa del Carmen, it can be some days, some evenings, it can be very fast paced. But then there are some days where it's slow, it's relaxing. And then the food, you have to consider the type of food that you like and make sure it's available. So for me, being from the US, I'm used to a totally different style of food than I am getting here in Mexico. So you just have to, if it's a place that you love, you just have to kind of get used to their style of food. If it's where you're planning on staying. But for me, I'll be here until August and then on to the next location. So that's it. Let me know if you have any questions. I am going to go ahead and drop this link in the description so you can grab this cheat sheet checklist, whatever you want to call it, download it, and keep it for later. Now, if you want a more in-depth list, I did create a full ebook. It's about 40 pages, Investing Without Borders. I'll drop the link for that as well below. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and then also let me know where you think I should go next. Either Costa Rica or Panama. I have to decide soon because I only have about 3 months left. So let me know in the comments.